We are starting a brand new chapter today, and it's one I think I say I have a lot of favorites in this class. I really enjoy DNA though. I like talking about DNA because it is currently it's at the frontier of what we are what we understand and what we're still trying to figure out. Okay, DNA is a relatively new discovery. And even to this day, we're still kind of figuring out like, well, wait a minute, there's more to it than we thought. So this is definitely at the forefront, the frontier of biology, stuff that biologists are still like I said, science, we don't know everything. We're trying to. We're trying to learn as much as we can. And this is right on the edge of, okay, we know a lot about it, but there's some things about it we don't understand yet. So DNA, the blueprint of life, you've no doubt heard of it before. I always like this comic. 1953, it was discovered. So you probably have grandparents older than that. Um, the 1950s, that's after World War II. So think about, World War One, World War II, we're dropping atomic bombs in World War II, but we still don't understand what DNA is. So think about the advancedness, I guess, is the only way I have to put it of DNA. And I like the joke here. It's basically a long, twisty rope laddery type thingy. A double helix is the deal that we're going to be talking about today. So DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Now it seems like a lot right now. As we go into the notes, you'll understand that kind of just describes what it's made out of. So it's actually kind of a conveniently named thing because it's going to explain exactly the parts of DNA there. I like this picture because it shows that it is the foundation for your chromosomes. You just got done spending a lot of time talking about how your chromosomes divide. Well, why does it need to divide? Because the instruction manual that is DNA is inside those chromosomes. I like sharing, because we didn't know about DNA forever. So what on earth did we think happened before DNA? And we'll get into this too with genetics, where there's kind of this blending idea. Why do you look the way that you look? People knew that organism or offspring look like their parents. Okay, so that's an obvious. We can see that in today's society. Okay, they could see it throughout history. Farmers have understood this for years. They have had an understanding of genetics of offspring are going to have similar traits to their parents, but how those traits got passed on, we don't understand. We understand it now. We didn't understand. That'll be our next unit, genetics. But before DNA, this is legit one hypothesis. Okay, this is what they thought maybe a sperm cell looked like if you zoomed way in. Okay, so we knew sperm and egg existed, and they combined. One hypothesis was that there is a little baby human inside the sperm cell, and it went into the egg and then consumed the egg and started growing. Okay, we laugh at that today because we understand kind of the process there, but at the time that was absurd that you could just have a couple cells that start multiplying and then all of a sudden start forming a human being. Okay, the idea that your first several days after conception, you're just a ball of cells. You are not a person. That was wild to them. DNA facts. These are the two that get the most credit for its discovery. James Watson and Francis Crick. The discovery of DNA is actually quite an interesting tale because it's so recent. We know so much about it, and kind of the back and forth, a little bit of pride and ego and secrecy, and kind of that. Some people willing to work together, others not willing to share their ideas. It is actually kind of an interesting tale for a longer session than our today's video. But that discovery happened, like I said, in 1953. That is recent enough that I believe, as the time I'm making this video, James Watson is still alive. Okay, I think he's well into his 90s by now. But I do believe that James Watson is still alive. I could be wrong on that, but very recently he was still alive. So that's just how recent this study is that we have a picture of guy, and he's still walking the earth. And then that shape, that was I should say, the last several people did a ton of work on DNA. There are Griffith and Chargaff and all these different people that came up with bits and pieces of the puzzle. Watson and Crick put the last piece in place. Okay, and that last piece that they put in place was the shape of DNA, so its structure there. That was kind of the last thing that scientists were debating. Others figured out the base pair rule. Others figured out it was the hereditary molecule. These were the two that are like, okay, let's piece that all together. And that shape is a double helix. So think about a rope ladder and then twist it. And so it's got kind of a spiral to it there. There is a third Nobel Prize awarded for the discovery of DNA, and it goes to this woman, Rosalind Franklin, because in 1951, she took a picture of DNA that enabled Watson and Crick to come up with their hypothesis. Now, I say took a picture. Keep in mind that DNA is smaller than a wavelength of light, so it wasn't like they, took a camera and zoomed way in. They actually had to use X-rays and a technique called X-ray crystallography to get some kind of an image. The image is the one that's up there on the right. Basically, the dark spots show where that X-ray hit something and bounced off. And so Watson and Crick were able to take that and say, you know what? It kind of is an inverse of the structure, indicating that that's where the stuff was. I don't know how to read X-ray crystallography. It takes a more talented person than myself. Sadly, 1950s women weren't appreciated as much in the scientific community, and her Nobel Prize came after her death. She did a lot of experimenting with X-rays before we knew the harmful side effects of the radiation that come with X-rays. So, like many of the early people that did experiments with X-rays and radiation, she died of cancer at a young age. So those three, I get the majority of the credit. X-ray crystallography right there. Get the majority of credit for the discovery of DNA. Once again, there are lots of other people involved, but those two get the most credit. A good video there of just kind of DNA and our genes and how it's our instruction manual. Another video showing how that DNA turns into chromosomes. Two videos, like all the videos in the notes, they're worth checking out. Okay, it's enrichment material there that if we were in person together, I'd play it. YouTube doesn't like me playing other YouTube videos on the same channel there. And then we're going to stop right there. Okay, so just the history of DNA today. We'll get into its structures more on our next lesson together there. So a little bit on the history of DNA. Once again, it is a fascinating discovery process because we know so much about it. Worth checking out if you want to dive a little deeper.